What's up guys, welcome to Monchkinz Gaming, where we take your gaming to the next level. This is Monchkinz logging in to bring you another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and welcome back to another video guide. In today's video is going to be on the Alexander LUFENIA fight, and this is going to be specifically for the cheese strategy and the different compositions that you can use in order to pull off the cheese strategy. We're also going to talk about basically the mechanics of it, and so you can understand how this actually works. Now before we do start, like and subscribe if you haven't already, because it does help this channel and I would really appreciate it. And now without further ado, let's start this video. Okay guys, so the first thing I want to really talk about is how this cheese came about. So let's try to understand how this cheese work. And there are really two things that you really need to know regarding this cheese. Number one is Alexander uses a move called Sacred Crime whenever your team has a full max brave. That means everyone in the team has max brave, and basically what Sacred Crime does, it reduces all your party members' brave back down to 0. And basically you will be taking advantage of this mechanic using Gladio. Currently Gladio is the only one that has a counter that actually batteries the entire team. So with his LD, you're able to counter, and basically if Gladio deals enough damage and recovers everyone's max brave back to the max, then basically Alexander will use Sacred Crime again and the loop starts, and that's how the cheese works. Alright, so now that you understand how the cheese works, it's another thing to actually pull it off. There are a few things you are going to be needing, specifically Gladio. Whether it's a friend support or your own Gladio, it doesn't really matter. You can pull it off either way. The biggest thing here is your Gladio going to be dealing enough HP damage to recover everyone's brave to the max? So the ones that you're going to need in order to achieve these are buffs and debuffs to increase the brave damage and his HP damage, obviously. Another thing that helps is removing all the max brave passives on your characters. This actually really helps. You can kind of keep some with Gladio, but I would recommend just taking it off. Just makes it so much easier. Trust me, I tried. The other thing is to equip 3-star weapons if it's completely necessary to reduce someone's max brave. For example, if you're using Paladin Cecil and you manage to get his burst, even if you take off a lot of the max brave, he still has a pretty high max brave. So if you equip him with a 3-star, use a ticket or something to grab this weapon. Or if you have someone else's weapon, like, you know, a 5-star that's not his weapon, you can go ahead and do this as well. That's basically what you have to do to reduce everyone's max brave at least to a certain point. And finally, I think Shiva summon is very important here, because you do need to have at least two of your characters to have a turn before Alexander, because if you don't, basically the cheese fails. Alright, now let's move on a step-by-step setup. If you have Onion Knight as your support and you have Gladio in your main team. So first off, obviously you need Gladio and one character to be switched out before Alexander has a turn, because you want this character to be switched out to Onion Knight. So basically Gladio will use his LD, that's his first turn. The character that you will be switching out will use their Call ability to reduce whatever you want, maybe increase the brave damage if this character has like Jack LD or something like that. Let him use it and then immediately switch out to Onion Knight. Now Onion Knight will use his LD, which gives basically everyone another turn, right? So this time Gladio will use his skill 1. Now it's important to use his skill 1 because if Alexander, if for whatever reason did not target Gladio in the first place, you really want Gladio to block Alexander's attack from everyone else, I should say. So it's important to do this. I mean, you can keep maybe resetting the game until Alexander actually just targets Gladio, but I think this is a much safer way. Now, the other character that you didn't switch out basically will just use another call ability, you know, to increase HP damage, whatever the case may be, and then use their own ability to increase the HP Brave damage. And finally, the Onion Knight will basically just use their burst, because Onion Knight's burst actually increase Brave and HP damage. So that's why the Onion Knight support is very popular with this very specific team composition. Alright, so now let's talk about a step-by-step setup when you're using Gladio as your support. Now, you will need one character that needs to be switched out. Plus, I put here Onion Knight, but it doesn't necessarily need to be. But I would suggest having Onion Knight anyway, just to remove that, you know, resetting once again, because you really want like Alexander to attack Gladio. So if you don't want to use Onion Knight, go ahead. There are some party compositions which I will mention later down the track in this video, if you don't have your own Onion Knight. I just put Onion Knight because it feels like it's easier to pull off the chase strategy with Onion Knight because of his LD call, but it's not completely necessary. So basically what happens here is the character that will be switched out basically will just use their call ability. You switch obviously to the Gladio support. Gladio uses his LD ability, and again, if you have Onion Knight, you just use his LD, and basically everyone gets a turn. If you're not using Onion Knight, go ahead and just use an ability to increase your Brave plus HP damage, but you do have to make sure that Alexander is targeting Gladio so he can counter straight away. And yeah, you can forget about number 5 if you are not using Onion Knight. It's basically the same strategy as the one previously mentioned with, you know, your own main Gladio. So examples of the team comps, the first one is going to be with Gladio, Paladin Cecil with Ignis LD Call. Then you got Gabranth with a Jax LD Call, and then you got your Onion Knight support and Shiva for the summon. This is basically my own setup that I did. There's a lot of other people who actually did the same setup, so I'm not claiming this to be my own original setup. So, you know, there's other people who have done this. There are other team compositions that you can use. Next one is going to be something that I saw people did, which is a Gladio again, and this time with Paladin Cecil with a Gabranth Call. It can be Jack, just depends who you have. Then you have 7 with Kryle LD Call. I believe with Kryle you don't really need the LD Call. You just need her call to increase the elemental damage, you know, the weakness damage that you can do. And basically 7 has, you need her LD for this one. And basically what her LD does is increases the party's Brave plus HP damage as well. So that definitely helps. And the fun thing about this one as well is you don't actually need any support. Again, you can probably replace Gladio here and put a Gladio support if you don't have your own Gladio. Ifrit for the summon for this one, just because of the extra, you know, 15% attack that you can get with Ifrit. The other option I believe is to use Odin, which reduces the boss's defense by 15% or something. But the one that I saw definitely use Ifrit. Now the last team I have for you guys is going to be Gladio with Paladin Cecil and Jack LD Call, and this time with Sarah and Kryle LD Call. Kryle still the same, Sarah kind of the same way that, you know, 7 works. This one will have a Shiva summon. I believe you can probably take off Shiva here and use something else, but This was another one that I saw that people use and worked well for them. So less turns for setting up. It's just, yeah, you know, at the end of the day, you just need that Brave plus HP damage for your Gladio to be able to, you know, battery everyone to the max. Alright guys, so that's basically it, how to cheese this fight. You can obviously do this the normal way. I just don't recommend doing it. It's a pain to do. And with the, you know, the LUFENIA orb counter, basically you need dark damage, which not a lot of characters have. So, you know, you might be forced to use Golbez. I mean, Shantoto, I believe, has some dark elements as well, but you kind of forced to use Golbez in this one, and that's not really ideal, especially if you didn't get his LD and his burst. A lot of the players that I found that actually cleared this fight normally actually owned Golbez's burst, and that's very important for the fight, because there is sort of like a stretch where there's a sort of a DPS race, and you know, using your burst or your summon during that time is definitely going to help. So, you know, I can't really say I would recommend doing this the normal way. So if you have Gladio, or you have someone, a friend, and you have all the other characters you can play around with in order for Gladio to get the damage that he needs, I suggest go ahead and do the cheese strategy. I'm telling you, it'll save you a lot of time and save you a lot of headaches as well, because currently there's really not a lot of option when it comes to dark attacks. And if you're not a big fan of Golbez, you don't really like his kit, you kind of, you know, you're kind of getting forced into using him. As far as I know, I mean, I've searched, I haven't seen anyone who did this normally without Golbez's full kit. So yeah, there you go. But if you can find someone who did that, or if you managed to do that yourself, let me know down in the comments below. I would love to hear your strategy. You know, I'm always someone who find it interesting for, like, when other people find different ways to tackle certain content with different strategy. I always want that, and if you let me know, leave that in the comments below, and we can share it to the community. You know, for people who actually haven't been able to do it, or don't have the certain characters that, you know, that I recommend, then, you know, all for the better for the community, right? And that's all I really want. So yeah, I think I will end the video right here, guys. Please do remember to click like and subscribe if you haven't already, because once again, it does help the channel, and would really appreciate it if you share this video at all, so everyone can cheese this fight and get some free resources. Make sure to follow me on Twitter and on Facebook at Monchkinz Gaming. This is Monchkinz logging off, and I'll see you guys in the next level.